that that's set up in conjunction with the schools. Anybody who's interested in law enforcement, any of the students, they'll come to our police department for the day, and we let them experience what it's kind of like. They do a brief ride along. We let them mess around with the radar up on 48. They spend some time with our highway guys. They spend some time with Marine Patrol. They go for a boat ride. They meet the canine. They check out the drone. We usually have aviation come in and fly. They land at the Conic School, and they have the aviation guys interact with the students. So that's pretty positive. Unfortunately, Shelter Island, Freeport, Southold, Manitowoc, we average about eight kids for that event. Bike rodeos are bike safety. We purchased a bike. I think the PBA purchases a bike. We go over bike safety with kids, and then we give the bike away to one of the kids who needs a bike. CAST, we volunteer with CAST for their back to school and their holiday toy drive, and that's at CAST in the town. I've been there a couple times. Anybody, if we have any officers that are available, extra staffing, we'll send there to that event. And it's nice that the community comes in and we help them pack the backpacks for the kids, or help the kids pick out toys. Scam awareness presentations we do annually at Conic Landing, and we're gonna hopefully have one soon at the rec center for the whole community to attend, because it is just a perpetual problem that's never going away, and I think it is the future of crime, and it's people have made a lot of money, even just off of our residents here in Southold. It's incredible. It's sad, and it's not just targeting the elderly anymore. It's everybody, and they target young kids. It doesn't matter. Everybody's susceptible. I don't know, has anybody gotten a text message about the Easy Pass?
Yeah.
Everybody. Yeah. Everybody in this room has probably gotten it. How many
I
people
got
have
a
one?
PayPal receipt today, and saying that they charge $495. Delete.
Yeah.
Delete that email. Right.
Canine unit. That's our handler is Officer Williams, and Canine Solo, German Shepherd. They began training September 20, and dog was certified in March 21. So they do missing persons or suspects on the run, evidence searches, building searches. He's advanced narcotic trained, and they do demos. That is a picture of a demo. It's from the Fun Fest. And this is Officer John Morris, Riverhead PD, one of their canines. They collaborate fairly regularly. So our guy will go to Riverhead for demos, Southampton. They all work closely together. Our Marine Division, we have a senior harbor master and 2 harbor masters. We have 3 patrol boats. 27-foot Cat, which is up in Manitowoc Creek on Sound. We have a 26-foot Boston Whaler in Wickham Creek here in Cutthroat, and that's a picture of our safe boat, and that stays at Port of Egypt. In addition to that, we have 1 small inflatable on a trailer at headquarters that we can hook up to a truck and trailer to the beach. It's pretty lightweight. These harbor masters handle all marine incidents. They enforce the environmental conservation laws, and they do trustee violations. Communications, we have 13 dispatchers. We're a full service PSAP, which means that we receive incoming calls and we dispatch the 911 call. 911 calls for 2024, 9,521. But just phone calls in general, 42,595 calls in 2024 that these dispatchers answer. I always say they are the unsung heroes. They are the ones that are your lifeline between help and sending help. So they do great work. They're very busy. They dispatch for 8 local fire departments, as well as Shelter Island Police Department and us. And then they greet the individuals at the lobby. So our lobby is open 24/7. There's a thick glass window, which is just to the right of him. So anybody who comes into the lobby, they're getting up to interact with, and generally the person's looking for a police officer, so they'll call a police officer to come and handle it. Talk about smart 911 later. And then our drone program, we brought our pride of the fleet here. This is our newest drone. The other three are much smaller. We got that on a law enforcement tech grant. So that is the DJI Matrice 30 series. I have some data on that. So it's got about a 40-minute flight time. It can fly in 30-knot winds. It flies top speed of 50 miles an hour, and it can fly in the rain, unlike the other three smaller ones. There's a spotlight on this. There's the ability to the speaker, so we can talk through it. Can't listen, right? But we can speak through it. It has infrared.
That one has the drop device.
And a drop device. This is an inflatable device. It hits the water. So we have the ability to connect that to this. And if there's a water rescue or somebody's in need of a life preserver, we can drop that to them. Yeah. Yeah, and we've used, so the drone programs was established in 2021. We have 8 pilots. Getting your pilot's license, you have to be a Part 107 certified pilot to operate these. It's a lot. I went through the process, and there's a lot involved in it. So I studied for a few weeks, and I took a 2-day course before I felt like I was ready to take the exam, and even the exam was difficult. But we've got a lot of interest from the officers in this program. And again, talking about the future of policing, these are going to be they're going to play a vital role. We use them a lot. Crime scene and crash investigations, aerial footage of events like this is just a picture of the Strawberry Festival. But we'll use that in talking to the Lions Club, who's running the parking, and say, hey, look, you've only got a few spots left, and they're over here. And that's important, because once we shut down that parking lot, we know we're going to have to do something out on 48 with the traffic. We've used them. We've had vessel in distress calls where we can send that out, get eyes on the vessel, and say, yeah, there is a problem. We can get the exact coordinates and location and direct our officers. Or we've used it for a reported vessel in distress where the person was not in distress at all. And we can say, give a thumbs up if you're okay. And they're like, yeah, thumbs up. All right, so now we don't have to dispatch rescue and our police boat out there. So we've used it for that. Let's look at another picture, a couple pictures here. This was just Winterfest, just to get an idea of how many people were in attendance. Here's October, we had an overturned vessel. We got our drone out there right away, and we're communicating with Cutchogue Fire Department, the location of the overturned vessel. Turned out that there was four guys on a very small boat, and it was a little windy and a little rough, and it flipped over. One of the gentlemen on that vessel on the barge that's in this picture, but it wasn't that close, so he ended up swimming all the way to his barge and got on it and came back and got his buddies. This is just a example of thermal imaging at nighttime. These are our officers that are just doing training. Body cameras. We are going to be we have body cameras. We were able to purchase them again with the same grant that we used to purchase that. And we're going to be implementing them in the next few weeks. We think that by the end of March, some of our officers will be wearing them. We don't just issue them to everybody at the same time. They go through I think, a 4-hour training block. Once they complete that training, they're gonna get their body cameras. So I think before Memorial Day, it's all of our officers and supervisors will be wearing these body cameras. I think it's great. Obviously, there's increased accountability and transparency. There's also protection for our officers from frivolous complaints or allegations that just didn't occur. Obviously, the evidence certainly doesn't lie. We can use them for training. I think if we have a great de-escalate, an exchange where there's an officer does a great job with de-escalation, our new recruits coming out of the academy say, look, this just happened. This is last week. This is one of your field training officers, and this was the situation, and we just want you to see how he or she handled that, and that's what we expect. So I think it's going to be a great tool. And obviously, there's going to be, I mean, there's studies that have proven that there's a reduction in complaints and use of force incidents. So I'm looking forward to getting them implemented. In addition to the Axon body cameras, we currently have a Motorola WatchGuard system in the car, and we've had that for 15 years at least. So that's a camera in our patrol cars. It faces out the windshield and it faces the back seat. So it gets any suspects that are in the back seat, and then it's a really good picture of a car stop. There's a pretty wide frame from the camera, so we're going to be upgrading the old Motorola system to the new Axon. In addition to the Axon in-car camera being a camera, it's also a license plate reader. So it'll read license plates as we are driving down the road, and it picks up a picture of that license plate. It's done through artificial intelligence. There is a hot list that's downloaded, I would think 1 or 2 times a day. It comes from the state police. We're not monitoring for expired registration or inspection. We're looking for stolen cars, stolen license plates, missing persons, Amber Alerts. So that's what we'll be picking up on. Speaking of LPRs, I don't know if anybody's aware, but we have them. They're called flock cameras on the edge of town, currently on 25 and 48. Same idea. They're stationary. They take pictures of license plates as they come and go. Our dispatch gets notified if there's a stolen car that comes into our jurisdiction, if there's a wanted person that comes into our jurisdiction. Again, we're not looking at the vehicle and traffic law stuff. We're looking at the more important things. And we just signed a contract to get a couple more of those cameras. So we're gonna have some on the boulevard. We'll have all access points in and out of town covered. We've used them quite a bit for investigations. We can enter license plate numbers, and if we have an armed robbery that takes place in Greenport Village, and they have a license plate, they don't even need a license plate number, a description of that car or a license plate number, we can go in and instantly enter that description, and we'll get a notification when that car passes by that camera. So it has helped a lot with investigations and closing investigations.
So behave yourselves, folks.
I just added this on there, Facebook. If anybody has Facebook, we just launched our Facebook page a couple weeks ago. I'm trying to give it plugs every chance I get. We're going to try to use it. I think it's going to be great. The more followers we get, but we're posting good information. Recently, we had a power outage. We had an accident. Road was closed. We posted on there tips on the Easy Pass. We posted about that the other day. And I just want to highlight some of the good things that our officers are doing. The Officer of the Year Awards dinner, we put a picture of just to let the public know. But I think, I don't know, 90% of people have some sort of social media. Currently, we're relying on getting information out to the town through the local news outlets or the town website. How many people check the town website daily? One. All right, that's really good. But I know people spend a lot of time on Facebook because it's kind of addicting and it takes 2 seconds to just say, oh, what's going on? And anyway, I think we'll be able to share a lot of good, valuable information and tips through Facebook. So
Chief, any plan for Insta or anything else? Or are you just trying to do?
we're
Facebook
just
without-
testing the waters with Facebook for now. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, we're not gonna take it down. We're gonna leave it up. I know that doesn't matter what we do, there are some people who are not gonna like us. And they're the ones that are gonna be commenting on our stuff. But we're hoping the people that do like us stand up for us and police the Facebook comment portion. We're certainly not gonna engage in banter back and forth on there, but again, it's just to for community engagement and getting out. And then just to touch on some of the challenges, this is not part of the PowerPoint, but I think we do more with less when it comes to the smaller town police department. Our resources are limited. I think the goal of policing in every community is the same. It's you know, crime prevention, solving crime, improving the quality of life, enforcing traffic. But we don't have the same resources that the bigger jurisdictions have. Like special victims units, pattern crime units, vehicular crime units, task forces. We do all that ourselves. And it was one thing that was eye-opening for me when I left the city to come out here. You know, when you have a bad car accident, there's serious physical injury in the city, yeah, call highway, they'll come do it. And we just leave and go on to the next call, but we can't do that out here. We do that ourselves. So we try to handle everything ourselves. We utilize Suffolk County as much as we can, but there's also times when Suffolk's not available. Their emergency services unit could be tied up on something, and so we have to pivot and adopt, and we do a pretty good job of that. Recruitment and retention is a problem, not just for us. That's a problem nationwide for police departments. We hire off the civil service list. And to get hired with a Southold town, you have to be a Southold town resident. The pool of young applicants that reside in Southold is dwindling. So 2023 was the last civil service test. It was the most recruitment initiative that we've ever been involved in. Suffolk County themselves extended the deadline because they only had 10,000 applicants. When I took the test in the late 90s, there was 30,000 applicants, 35,000 applicants. So they extended it by 2 weeks and they were able to get 12,000 applicants. But we ran multiple ads in the paper. We had some pamphlets made up. We left them in delis. We posted them on bulletin boards and businesses, and we did the best we could. But we're going to have to double down on that effort. So of the 2023 results, we have 70 candidates on the Southold list, residents of Southold, which sounds like a lot. But when you think about the process of getting hired, there's a physical, there's a medical, there's a polygraph, psychological exam, an oral psych, a background check, and an interview. So the average is 1 in 7 applicants make it through the process.
Wow.
So that leaves us with 10, and it's a 4-year list. So I'm hoping we don't have too many retirements this year. Recently, I just learned this, that we had a Suffolk Chiefs meeting yesterday that I attended. They sent out 1,000 canvas letters. So these are people who are on their list. They did well, and they received a letter for orientation. 350 responded by the deadline. So 650 people who took that Suffolk test, they paid $100 to take it. They did well enough. They never even responded. They're not interested. So it is a problem. But, we're going to do our best to drum up interest. And that's why I think it's important getting involved with schools and interacting with the younger generation to show them that, you know, we're just human beings and good people, and I think they'll realize that, and they do when they come to the job shadow day. By the end of the day, they're like, "This was really cool. Thanks for." But anyway, you know, I don't. It's there's so many remote jobs now, I think it's easier, and there's the opportunity for these kids to make a lot of money sitting behind the computer, so. Retention, we had one police officer leave, one young officer after about 4 years, which it's like unheard of. When I got this job, it was like winning the lottery. That was what everybody would tell you. You just won the lottery, kid. You got hired in Southold. And now we have young cops leaving. This officer wanted to go work for the DOJ. So we'll see. Staffing is a constant challenge. We had 55, we're budgeted for 56, so I'm hoping to get back to that number. But we just took over Fisher's Island, so we have 2 officers over on Fisher's Island. We have 3 officers that are out hurt right now. And these things happen. So ideally, I would love to get to a point where we have 5 police officers on the road all the time, around the clock. It's just not, it's not viable at this point in time. So, which brings up issues with backup and officers' concerns. If you're in Orient at a domestic and the closest officer to you is in Southold, again, totally different from the bigger jobs. And in the city, I can remember getting into a scuffle with a young man on 108th Street. And I called for help, and it was like guys coming out of the manhole covers and jumping in. Within 30 seconds, there's guys there that I was like, that was incredible. We had 15 cops on scene. It's not the case out here. Luckily, we've got good Samaritans that have helped out, helped our officers out, and it's happened very recently. So, but that trend is also kind of going away. People don't want to get involved, and to an extent, I don't blame them. There's not a lot of room for movement. Another challenge, but that's part of the being on a small job. That can impact job satisfaction and growth. So you may come here and you may be a police officer for 20 years. There's not a whole lot of openings. Promote a sergeant, and then there's no openings for another 3 or 4 years. Right now, we have a pretty young department. Same with detectives. Some officers are really interested in the detective division, but if there's no spaces opening up, we can't just create one. So that can be frustrating. Technology is a challenge. It's rapidly evolving. We just signed on and got Taser 7s, which was an upgrade from the Taser X26, and now they're trying to sell us Taser 10s. It's just, it doesn't stop. I get calls constantly from vendors and new products, and it all looks great. It's all gonna make our lives easier, but it costs money. And a lot of it is recurring annual costs, subscription-based stuff. And then you might see something that looks great, and then another company shows you that same product, but they put a spin on it, and it's actually better with that company. It's difficult to decide who you're going to go with, but and officer wellness is certainly a challenge. Our officers face significant stress exposure to traumatic incidents in conjunction with the schedule that they work. It leads to fatigue and burnout. Like I said, that rotating chart that our officers work, it's pretty antiquated. There's not a lot of agencies left doing it. There's the compact work week, so there's 12-hour tour options, there's 10-hour midnight option, flip-flop days, but I always laugh. I hear people complain about jet lag from a vacation or daylight saving time and how it alters your sleep pattern. But our guys every week are changing their shift. So it takes a toll physically and mentally. It's exhausting. And then our other major challenge right now is Fisher's Island. So as you know, we took over policing from the state police on Fisher's Island. So we have 2 police officers that are assigned to Fisher's Island on a 7-day rotation. They go over every Wednesday and they come back on Wednesday. It's I think it's good for the younger officers who don't have families, but the ones that do have families, they're leaving their wife and their children for 7 days at a time, so. Logistically, that hasn't been easy, but, they do need policing coverage over there.
Do you wanna, mention Father Peter?
Father Peter,
Yeah.
yeah, we're getting a new department chaplain on March 4th. So we're very excited. We have a peer team. I mentioned also wellness, so we do have a peer team that go through extensive training. And so anytime we have a traumatic incident, our peer team convenes and grabs the officers, the dispatchers, whoever was involved in that incident, and brings them together and talks about it with them, let them get it off their chest. So now we're gonna have a department chaplain who's going to assist with that. So we're excited about that. All right, and then rewards. There's a lot of rewards of policemen. I think all police officers would agree with me that the biggest reward is just the ability to make an impact and a difference. Every day we get to put on this uniform and go out in the public and potentially save a life or just have a positive effect. And I think there's a lot of rewards, but for me, that's the most rewarding. I'm sure everybody else would agree, all my colleagues. So that's the general overview. That's what I have. I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Haas for the scan presentation, and then afterwards we can do some Q&A. All right.
Good evening, everyone. It's Sergeant Bobby Haas. I started with Southold Town in 2010 as a seasonal police officer. I worked Greenport Village for 4 summers, and I was hired full-time in 2014. I mainly chief worked Greenport Village until I was promoted to sergeant in 2021. I'm currently a relief sergeant, and I oversee our IT, records management, communications systems, kind of all under my wheelhouse. So that's kind of how I got into the scam presentations. Most of them are technology related nowadays. It's a huge problem nationwide, but I mean, we get sometimes multiple reports a day of people becoming a victim of a scam. I think today alone, there's at least 2 or 3 incidents that I saw before we came here. I don't have any exact numbers on how many we handle, but we handle a lot. It's a very common problem. So we just wanted to, I'm going to go over a few of the common scams that are out there. They're changing every day. The actors that are behind all these are constantly coming up with new ways to trick people into providing their information or handing over money. So we'll identify a few of them, and then hopefully some ways to avoid them, and then what to do if you do become a victim to one of them. The first one is phishing emails or texts. Everyone got the Easy Pass text message. That's considered a phishing. It's PHI. That's considered a phishing text message. They're sending you something, trying to get you to click on it and enter your personal information. If you clicked on that link, I think they ask you, they tell you that you have a fine you have to pay, and they want you to put in your credit card information, and they're going to charge you. They're going to end up getting mad at you for fine. Ways to identify that these are scams, and they can do the same thing through emails, text messages, sometimes on social media. You'll get a message on Facebook or one of the social media platforms. Ways to identify them are just look for misspellings in the web addresses or a phone number you don't recognize. And chances are nowadays, no legitimate company is sending you a text message or an email looking for your information or looking for you to hand over money. It's so common with scams now that no companies out there are legitimately doing that, most likely. And even if they are, I always, if I get an email, say you get an email from the bank, hey, you need to log into your account, click here. Close the email, go directly to your bank's website and log in how you normally would. Or if you get an email from PayPal, close, delete that email, go log into your PayPal account directly. That's ways to avoid, potentially not realizing whether or not it's a legitimate email or text messages. Go directly to the source. Don't go through that email that they sent you. Again, just don't click on any links that are in these text messages, these emails. They can do anything from taking you to a page to collect your personal information to, unbeknownst to you, some type of virus gets installed on your computer or even your phones nowadays. The smartphones, you can click on a link and it can download something to your phone that could get personal information. Everyone has passwords stored and other personal information on their phones now. So the best ways to avoid these, like I already said, is don't click on the links, go directly to the source, verify with the company directly, whether it's going directly to their site or call them on the phone. And then there's spam and malware programs that you can put on your computers. They even make them for your cell phone nowadays. A lot of the cell phone providers, AT&T, and they have an app that you can download onto your phone, and it filters them. It's a antivirus basically for your phone. Because so many people use your smartphones nowadays, just like you would use your computer at home. So you can download these applications that search for viruses, that will block potential spam calls, potential spam text messages. It'll alert you if it's potentially spam. So those are definitely things that if you want to try and prevent some of these phishing text messages and emails is that you can do. Another one is like tech support scams. I think we just took a report yesterday where someone came in that who the company was that they pretended to be maybe it was Best Buy, and they said that we identified that your computer has a virus, and they were able to convince the person to let them remotely log into their computer, told them that they fixed the issue, and a couple of days later they started getting charges on their PayPal account. So somewhere in their computer, that person was able to get their login credentials for their PayPal account and then use those to charge money. If you didn't call tech support looking for someone to fix your computer, then chances are there's nothing wrong with your computer. So don't fall for that hang up. That's hang up and verify with the company that they're representing to be, or most likely you would most likely know whether or not you initiated that conversation. So I would not entertain any unsolicited technical support assistance. Another common one, we haven't seen any reports of this in a while, but they call them romance scams, where someone will contact you, whether it's through social media or some other form on the internet, befriend you, and then after a certain period of time, start asking you for financial assistance or for personal information. And then they're going to use that, they'll probably all of a sudden cut off contact with you, and they're going to use your information. So always be cautious with your personal information and never send money to someone that you don't know, and you don't know that it's a trusted person. The lottery and sweepstakes scams, like the Publishers Clearinghouse, or you'll get a message saying that you won some grand prize. Usually, what goes along with that is they'll tell you in order to claim your prize, you have to first send them some money, and that's how they get money out of you. So legitimate lotteries and sweepstakes don't ask for upfront fees, and if any doubt, verify with the organization that they're claiming to be. So that's a pretty common one. Another one is grandparent scams. So you'll get a phone call and they'll pretend that they're a relative, usually a grandchild, and the common one is that they're in jail in a foreign country and that they need money for bail, or that they were in an accident in a foreign country and they need money for the hospital. And they'll try and get you to send money. They usually make it sound very urgent. Had a couple of them where they claim that it even sounds like the same voice as their relative. So they're using AI to create the voice. There's so much personal information on social media nowadays that, they're able to provide probably the person's name and maybe even get a clip of their voice and make it sound pretty legitimate. But verify with another family member first. Make sure that person is even travel, that they were traveling, and, call that person before you send any money. Never send any money over the phone like that. Online shopping. So there's a lot of websites out there that appear to be a company that you may think it is. So I'll use Walmart, for example. There's scams out there where they make a website that looks like Walmart.com, but somewhere in that web address is something a little different. And when you go and make a purchase and put your information in, that's where they're gonna get you. Nowadays, if you see HTTPS in the web address, that S means secure. So it's a trusted source. There's certain certificates that they have to get through different government organizations that basically verifies that web address is a trusted source, and it should be secure. So you want to look for that S. A lot of times in the web browser bar, you'll see like a little lock symbol that'll light up. That's another indication that it's secure. And then if you're ever putting in your credit card information or bank account information, they will usually have some type of patch or symbol that verifies that it's a secure encrypted site that you're using when you put that information in. And usually if there's deals that appear too good to be true, items that are really, really cheap that should be expensive, that's, could be an indication that it's a scam. Anyone have any questions so far?
This is one that scares me the most, is if you get one digit off, if you're calling the bank or somebody, you get one digit off and they answer and say, or they don't answer, but it says, this is Chase or something, and then you go immediately to a contest you can have. And it really is frightening because it's one digit. Does that happen a lot here?
I haven't heard too much of that one. It makes sense. I'm sure they know the number for Chase or Capital One. So they're making a number one digit off, hoping
One
that
digit.
somebody messes up the phone number when they're entering it,
Yeah.
and then they're using that. I mean, they are constantly coming up with new ways to try and trick people.
I had one like that, and the guy said, and I said, well, I'm busy now, I'll call you back. And I said, give me your number, call back. And to my surprise, he gave me the number, and he says, but ask for this extension. So I immediately called our local branch.
Yeah.
And, so that's the thing, you might say, oh, well, and it says Chase Bank, and then you hit the extension, and so you think you're calling.
Yeah. Well, when they answer, it says, or when you hear Chase Bank,
Right, you just think.
you
yeah,
just think, oh, okay.
it's legit.
So if you do happen to become a victim of one of these scams, it happens every day. The most immediate thing you should do is contact your bank, have them put a freeze on all your accounts. Depending on where in the process it is, they may be able to get the money back. Depends on whether or not that transaction is cleared. That should be your first phone call. File a report with the police department. Especially if you're at a financial loss, we can do as much of an investigation as we can. Unfortunately, most of these incidents originate overseas and are going through all sorts of different server hops and VPNs and different obstructed IP addresses and everything, and it's very difficult to trace these down. We've had a few successes, mainly with we've had a few where cash was sent in the mail. So someone fell victim and put cash in the mail and sent it, and we've actually been able to work with the Postal Service and UPS and get the money back. And we've had a couple other incidents where we've actually been able to trace these people down, but unfortunately, generally, it's way out of our purview to be able to track any of these people down. I know the FBI is trying to put a big effort behind it. They've opened up offices overseas in certain places where a lot of these scams originate from, to try and start tracking down, because it's such a big problem. report it to the Federal Trade Commission. They have a website where you can report the scams and then monitor your accounts. You can also contact the 3 credit bureaus and put a freeze on your credit so that no accounts can be opened in your name. So that's not a bad idea, depending on how frequently you're opening accounts. You put the lock on there, and if you know you're gonna open an account, you just call them up and take it off. That's a way to prevent credit cards getting open in your name or any other type of credit account. Some additional resources, the Federal Trade Commission has a lot of information on their website. AARP Fraud Watch Network, they have a lot of information and a lot of tools on their website where you can actually type in like a general description of the scam, and it will come up and give you information on how to avoid it or whether or not it is a scam. And then the New York State Department of State Division of Consumer Protection Assistance has a helpline and a website. They also have a lot of information on there. And then again, you can always contact us at the Southold Police Department to answer any questions. An officer will always come over and take a look at the email or the text message and try and help you and let you know whether or not it's a scam or legitimate. Any questions? Just want to touch real quick on Smart 911. It's a fairly new program. We have some flyers up front if anyone wants to grab one. But with the growing popularity of cell phones and the decline of landlines, it's made it a little more difficult for our 911 dispatchers to get information on who's calling 911. For example, in 2024, we had 9,521 incoming 911 calls. 7,043 of those were from a cell phone. So less than 2,000 came in on a landline. Typically, when you call in on a landline, we get your name, your address, your phone number, everything that's on file with the phone company. When you call on a cell phone, depending on, it's not standard for a cell phone to come up with a name. You can actually go on to Verizon, AT&T, you can go on into your account. And I don't know exactly how you do it, but you can put a name on there so that name would appear when you dial 911. But generally, we get the phone number and we are able to get your location most of the time. So what this Smart 911 profile does is you go to smart911.com, or there's also an app you can download and create it right on the app on your phone, but you create a profile and you can put in as much information or as little information as you want. I mean, this is a paper version of the profile, but you create it electronically. There's 3 pages of information here, and it gets into emergency contacts. It gets into addresses, health conditions, any pets, the vehicles you drive, the health conditions, special needs, medications. There's a ton of information you can put on there. And what that'll do is when you dial 911, it pops up on the 911 screen. And if you have a Smart 911 profile, it'll show it, the dispatcher can click it, and it gives them all that information. So if just your phone number comes up, they click that, they view the profile, it's going to give you the name, it's going to give you your home address, because you put your address in there, and it's going to give us a lot of information. If if you had an emergency contact, someone that there was some type of health problem when we got there, and now we can contact the family member to come and be there with you. Health conditions, vehicles. So it gives the 911 dispatchers a lot more information. We don't have access to that information unless you dial 911. It's a private database, and unless you dial 911, that's not information that we're able to view. So, but if you did dial 911, it gives the dispatchers, the police officers, the fire department a lot of valuable information when they're responding to the call.
So if your phone gets stolen, is the person able to hit 911 and find out all your personal information on there?
No. So it's you create the profile on this Smart 911 website or through the application, but it's not actually stored on your phone. It's in the cloud somewhere, and it's only the 911 system that we have is linked to that database, And if you have the profile that's linked to that phone number, you can even link it to your house phone number too. So if you call from your house, if you happen to have a landline, that profile will show up. You can link as many phone numbers as you want to that profile. You can link as many addresses as you want. So if you have a house out here and a house in another location, you can put both addresses on there.
But somebody cannot just click on 911.
No, that information isn't stored on your phone. And even to get, if you have the app on your phone, so it's password protected and everything to get into it.
I have the app on my phone, but to get into the app, it's password protected.
Can I just say one thing to what you said? I discovered, and I don't know how to do this, but there's a thing on Apple where you can keep it in a position where nobody can get into it if they steal your phone. If you don't do that beforehand, and they get it, and they have a know your code or something, they can get it and there's nothing Apple can do. But I don't know how to do it, I can't remember, but the phone is permanently in kind of, you can't get in my phone, but call Apple, they'll tell you, but.
You know, the Apple phones have the Face ID or a passcode, and then you can also, if you do lose it or it gets stolen, you can log in online and mark it as stolen, and that makes the phone a brick, basically. There's nothing that anyone can do with it.
Oh, I didn't know that, but you do.
So we encourage everyone to make a Smart 911 profile if you choose. There's some flyers up top there on the table, and that's all I got.
Have you publicized that through?
It's actually been our most popular Facebook post so far.
I have a lot of content on there.
Actually, I think there is, back a few months ago, we did something on the town website. There's a little blurb on there about it.
Question, but first off, I want to thank also, Councilwoman Doherty, Councilman Mealy, and Supervisor Prusky for coming here tonight. Thank you very much. I do have a question at 911. We live out near the end of Nassau Point, and I know in the past it hasn't happened. I haven't had to dial 911 luckily for the last couple of years, but when I did several times, Southampton picked me up. And I would, 911, what's your emergency? I start telling the emergency, and they're like, wait a second, where are you calling from? Has the town or is this been addressed so that to try to prevent this from happening to people?
So the technology has improved just recently over the past, I'd say, year and a half to 2 years. Where then I believe the FCC actually required that cell phone companies do this. It used to, that was based off what tower you were hitting. So you were hitting a tower in Southampton, so that's why I went to Southampton. We would frequently get calls for Southampton, we'd get calls for Connecticut. But now the phone companies have to look at your location and direct that call to the appropriate 911 center. We still get it every once in a while, but for the most part, the majority of them are directed correctly, because like I said, they put something in place where it first looks at your location, says, okay, no, you're hitting a tower in Southampton, but you're actually in Southold, and it will direct it to us.
Yeah, what was interesting is I've had in the last couple of years, had to call 911 from out in the water. And I've always gone just right to Southold, and that was always amazing to me, because I could be in the middle of Peconic Bay and somehow it went to Southold.
When we first got out to Fisher's Island, we actually tested that to see where 911 calls, because that's obviously hitting a tower in Connecticut, and it came right to Southold.
Questions anybody might have?
Yeah, question for the chief. You mentioned you have 55 officers.
Yes.
On staff. What percentage of those are female and minority officers?
We should have 2 African-American officers and we have 8 females.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Well, a couple of, I want to give kudos to the supervisor and the chief and others for the meeting you held a couple of weeks ago regarding ICE and immigration issues. And if your answer to this question is no, I think that's great. But I guess, has there been any update in regards to the restrictions that you described that the local police operate under with regards to ICE? And has there been any evidence of ICE out in our local community?
There have been plenty of rumors. I had received a phone call 2 weeks ago, from somebody out in Greenport saying that ICE was, staging out there to do a raid. It was not. It was, the US Marshal's Office. We knew they were out. We were assisting them, and they were going to get a sex offender. We had a car accident on Bridge Lane, where the suspect took off running, and went into a field or a house. So our officers responded, multiple of them. They kind of surrounded this particular house. That was also being spread around, that ICE was going to be raiding us, but we have no indication that immigration has come out to our township, and nothing has changed with our policy.
Back on 911. Historically, there was always an issue, and I think there still is, that presents itself when you're calling 911 from a cell phone, which is programmed to call over Wi-Fi if Wi-Fi is available. Because in that case, you're not hitting a tower. And most of the phones, I know Apple iPhones, you have to put in an address. But if you're not at that address, for example, on my phone, I have my home address. If I call from here using the library's Wi-Fi, you will respond, I think, to my house.
So that's considered, they call it VoIP calls, voice over IP.
Exactly.
A lot of even the phone system in this building is probably a VoIP phone system. They've made a lot of improvements with the VoIP calls. That is actually, now that they've worked out looking at your actual location instead of the cell tower location, the VoIP is really the last issue, I think, that the 911 system is working on. I know that Optimum is the biggest VoIP provider in Suffolk County, and from speaking to the head 911 coordinator at Suffolk County, they're still battling with Optimum to try and get them to work a couple of these things out. You will get, whether it's directed to us or Suffolk County, you will get a 911 center. As far as the address showing up, if it gets directed to us, it's going to show up with the address of whatever internet, if
Whatever I program.
if you're hitting the Wi-Fi here, it's going to come through this location. It uses additional resources on your phone, the internal GPS and everything else. It will show up with your location. But there is still some issues with the VoIP calls not getting directed correctly. You will definitely get 911. It may go to Suffolk County PD, who would then transfer it to us. But they're still having some issues as far as properly directing the calls to the correct 911 center.
You want to test it? Just give them a heads up.
It scared the hell out of my wife. No, because
You mentioned that there are 4 police officers on duty, a minimum of 4, but that just doesn't seem like very many to me. I don't know. I don't want to alarm anyone, but it just doesn't.
We gave Connecticut, Fisher Island, would you get 2 more back, or is that a board?
Floated that idea. Yeah, yes, I agree that is the staffing though that has been suitable for a long time. Again, I would like to increase it. I think our members would like to see it increase to that number of 5. But with the 4, we do a good job of covering the town, and like I said, if one of them has an arrest, we'll call in somebody on overtime to backfill that sector so that we don't leave that sector vacant.
The police advisory committee is doing research on demographics and just the viability and all that, and they'll be reporting to the county.
Oh,
The other proof is that you've got 3-minute response time. That says a lot.
Yeah.
well, that's true.
Other than the scamming, what would you say is the most problematic crimes for residents to be aware of that you see?
Well, it's actually larceny was our top crime for 2024. So I think a lot of the fraud contributed to that high number, but we did have a lot of larcenies from vehicles. So locking your car doors is important, and I know most of the time it's fine, but these are crimes of opportunity. We never know when, a lot of times, it was a ring from New Jersey, I think they ended up coming up from Jersey, and they were stealing cars. That happened a lot more on the South Fork, but we got hit 2 summers ago, really bad. We took multiple larceny reports day after day, and it might have been a community in Mattatuck one night, and the next night it was in Peconic, and the following night it was in Southold. But if you just lock your car, so they're out here, they're moving as fast as they can. They're not gonna waste time. They're not gonna smash your window. They're going from car to car. They're testing the door. If it doesn't open, they're moving on, because they don't want to get caught. And
If you just started up without the key.
a lot of people leave the key right in it. Yeah, but again, I can tell you, growing up here, my parents, they never locked their house door. They never locked their car door. My wife does not lock her car door. She leaves the key in it. Sometimes for a while, it's sitting on the center console. It's, yeah, 364 days out of the year, we're fine. But that one night, when somebody just happens to be walking down the street and says, oh, I need a little change for something, they're gonna go into that car, and if the key's there, you never know. So I think they're just crimes of opportunity. Lock the car doors.
Don't just out your head though.
Sorry, yeah. It's gotten better. You're sick of listening to me.
Ever since I moved out here in 2002, I've been curious about how you get your cars, because I didn't have a car from leaving my parents' house to moving to Manhattan, and then 2002 out here. And I always wondered, when I went to the dealership, I didn't know what to do. So I keep thinking, there always seem to be Fords, but how do you decide when you need a new car? Who do you go, what do you just say, well, who do you go to, Ford or Chevy, or who makes that decision?
It's gotta be on a state bid.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, we bid on cars, and Ford generally always has the best product, and we kind of stick with it, because then they like to change the model just a little bit here and there, so our light bar doesn't fit on the next year's model, so we have to buy new stuff. But if they keep the model the same, we can repurpose a lot of the stuff from the older cars.
What's the feeling about recreational drones? Do we have rules or?
There's not a lot of rules on,
So you only have to, the chief spoke earlier about how we had our pilot's license, there's 8 of us that sat and took our FAA license in order to fly the drones. You only have to have that license if you're gonna fly commercially. Public safety, as far as the FAA goes, is considered commercially, so that's why we're required to have it. Anyone else, you can go to Costco, Walmart, buy a drone off the shelf and take it out and fly it and do pretty much whatever you want with it. So, and we haven't had too many reports of anything where there's been issues. I think like the state parks, you have to actually have like a special permit to fly in the state parks. I'm not sure with the county parks.
Same with the county. It's considered a safety issue, not a privacy issue.
Right. We don't have any local codes that govern the drones in town.
Yeah.
there's no restricted airspace.
Yeah.
Here.
Everyone, regardless of whether or not you're flying public safety, commercial, recreational, you're limited to 400 feet altitude. The FAA has started to put in other safety measures. All the new drones have to have a remote ID, it's called. So if I was flying that drone out here and someone was up the road, it would actually show up on my screen that there was someone nearby. And
As long as they don't disable it.
as long as they don't disable the remote ID, and as long as they registered that remote ID number on this FAA site, and then eventually, supposedly the plan is that law enforcement would be able to take that remote ID number, run it on the website, like you run a license plate, and you'd be able to figure out who owned that drone if it was causing a problem. Not there yet, but that's their eventual plan.
I was just wondering if you could share with us, do you have any goals or objectives or hopes for the department you'd like to see accomplished in this calendar year?
Sure, yeah, the biggest one is accreditation. It's been talked about for a while. Accreditation is a blueprint for professionalism. It is something that we will put on our cars that we are accredited and in our paperwork. It builds confidence in the agency. There's an accreditation council. It's, I believe, DCJS, right, has an accreditation council made up of members who have policies and procedures, and as long as we conform to the policies that they have in place, we can be accredited. We've had some hurdles with the building itself. Property and evidence is a major. It's one of the critical points of accreditation, and it's the first thing that when they come to see if you qualify to be accredited, they go to that evidence and property room. So we are very close to, we've gotten rid of, we've got some space down at the annex. We moved a lot of our files and storage over there, and we set up an evidence room that meets accreditation standards. And we are now in the process of putting all of our evidence and property into that room. It has to be audited. It has to be inventoried and audited. Once that's done, I think we're going to be in a pretty good place, and that's the objective for this year.
And we have the design for the new police building, and it's going to the architects, and that takes next 8 months or so. The architects will have it, and hopefully within a year we'll be able to move forward, and you'll see some progress.
Well, on that point, I was listening into the work session the other day, and what I thought I heard was that the all construction on the police and everything's being held up by decisions on what you do with the justice court.
It's not being held up from that. We're still working on the designs and the architects. We're moving forward with that. And then depending on what we decide on the justice court is how we'll do the site plan. But the building itself is going to be the same no matter where we place it on the property. So we're moving ahead with that.
Yeah, with supervisor. Yeah, if I could just thank you, Chief and Sergeant. You really laid out some of what you do, because I know there's a lot of other things that you just have run out of time. And just thank you for your professionalism and how complicated it is. You know, I mentioned Pat Kelly starting in 1928, and I remember Pat Kelly. And so now you know. You see how complicated the job is and how technology has taken over in so many facets, and yet it's still a physical job. You still have to be there physically, and so that part of the job has really stayed the same and remains as important. So thank you for all
Thank
that.
you for your continued support.
And that's what we have to struggle with. You know, you mentioned how many officers around the world at the same time, but and then you have to struggle with providing all the training that's necessary to keep up with everything and to be efficient and effective.
And I would add the officers train every day. We, upgraded, they've talked about what's in their cars, and, we have a program where they have to, when they sign onto the computer in the car, they have to do a reading and answer a few questions, so they get that reminder and training every day. So that's part of the
It's related to
accreditation.
our policy manual, which is about 800 pages now. And it's a lot, but to keep them fresh on policy, they have daily training bulletins, and it's a scenario based on a specific policy. So they read through that and answer the question.
Cool.
Just to support what Supervisor Crutchley said and what Councilwoman Doria, it's just an honor to be on the police advisory. Jill and I have sat in on the interviews for the new officers, and just being excited that officers from Southold are gonna get trained to protect their community. And just, the police advisory actively says to the chief, how can we help you and not get in the way? We don't want to bother you, but do you need help? Like what? So the police advisory is asking the right questions. And speaking of that, Jack Slattery is here, a longtime police advisory chair, reminding us as electeds what our responsibility is as commissioners and saying that we need accreditation. So it's not just the town board, it's not just the chief, not just the sergeant, it's a community effort to make sure that Southold is properly policed, and it is. And I just appreciate the community members that remind us as town board or whatever our position is, that we're well policed, we're well protected, we're one of the most safest communities in the country. And just the legacy of the previous chiefs, and now it's your legacy, Chief Grattan. I'm just proud that you're doing the right thing. And sometimes I have a question, you're like, oh, we're gonna talk about this. I was just gonna ask you that. So you have the right thoughts, you're moving in the right direction. I think we're supporting you properly. If we're not, you tell us that we're not doing it right. So you have to tell us if we're not backing you up, but I believe we are. And I'm just so excited for your future as the chief. I'm excited for the young women and men of the department. Just, when you were at the previous meetings, I was like, it's so nice to say something that a baby was saved, and it was Greenport EMT, and it was Officer Anderson, and what you said about Officer Creighton, that there's young officers that love their community, they're protecting their community. So it's just an honor to be a small part of that, but to support you in what you're doing. And we want to be good commissions. We want to be good community members. So thank you for that opportunity. Thank you.
Great way to end the meeting.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you again to our speakers tonight. And in April, we'll look forward to a session, forum on get to know your tax bill. Kevin Whistler. Thank you, everybody.
Seems like a great schedule.
It is, yeah, it's not very well.
I'm gonna.